Hey, what's up guys? Huawei has become one of the biggest names in Android. The company has just released the Mate 20 lineup to take on the flagships from Samsung and Google. Can they handle the pressure? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and this is our Huawei Mate 20 review. Huawei is back with a new yet familiar design for the Mate 20. Like last year, it's made of all glass with an aluminum frame. The glass back is slightly curved, and on our midnight blue model it has a rough texture thanks to some laser engraving. It's only a bit noticeable to the touch, but it makes it sound like vinyl when you scratch on it. In this color scheme, it comes with a subtle striped pattern under the glass. The effect looks sort of like metallic denim. We did notice that there was some separation happening between the back panel and the frame on both our Mate 20 Pro and our Mate 20. We're not sure if this is a widespread issue or just bad luck with our review units. So even though, like last year, the Mate 20 is IP53 rated against dust and light splashes, we had to keep these units away from water. Like any glass phone, the back is slippery, but if you want, you can add some grip with the silicone case that Huawei provides in the box. Flipping over to the front, the screen is a 6.53-inch IPS LCD with a similar RGBW matrix as last year's Mate 10. It is larger and taller this time around though, even bigger than the Mate 20 Pro's display. It's not a QHD OLED like on the Pro, but content here looks sharp enough at 1080p. Contrast is excellent. Color accuracy isn't great, but is fine in the default vivid mode. The screen is quite bright, up to 780 nits in auto mode in bright conditions. Sunlight legibility is very good for an LCD, though colors will look washed out in direct sun. Let's talk quickly about the notch cutout. It's much smaller than the wide notch on the Mate 20 Pro, and pretty unobtrusive. The trade-off is that you're missing the 3D depth sensing here for Face Unlock. That said, the regular 2D Face Unlock works fine, though it won't be as secure as the 3D version on the Mate 20 Pro. You can always just stick to the fingerprint reader, which has been moved to the back of the phone. And even though it doesn't have the wow factor of the Mate 20 Pro's under-display reader, it's as fast, accurate, and reliable as it gets. One interesting accent on the phone is the power button, which is colored red. On the other side is the hybrid SIM slot, which enables expandable storage on top of the internal 128 gigs. Unfortunately, it doesn't support microSD, but a new nano memory standard developed by Huawei. While these NM cards are smaller, they don't have as high a capacity or speed, and at the moment you can't even find them in stores yet. We're glad that just like last year's Mate 10, the Mate 20 has kept the 3.5mm jack for headphones. Sound through headphones is good. Clarity is top-notch, though loudness is just average. While stereo speakers aren't on the official specs list, you actually do have some sound coming out from the earpiece as well as from the bottom-firing speaker. So you get the same sound quality as the Mate 20 Pro. Very good loudness, but rather shallow and unbalanced sound. At the heart of the Mate 20 is Huawei's new 7nm chipset, the Kirin 980. This year you can get one with 6 gigs of RAM, or just 4. In benchmarks, the Snapdragon 845 might still have a slightly more capable GPU, but the Kirin 980 edges it out in the CPU department, and has a good chance of being the more power-efficient chipset of the two. The 980 also brings back the dedicated neural processing chip from last year, but this time around it's dual-core. And there's updated GPU Turbo software available on the Mate 20 out of the box. GPU Turbo 2.0 uses its algorithms to smooth out frame rates and touch latency in supported games. And the number of titles is expanded to 6 now. And one more thing, there's a performance mode which is found in battery settings. It's supposed to give you the full unrestricted power of the Kirin chip at the cost of heating up and draining the battery. In our tests, it did give about a 10% boost in benchmark scores, if we kept the phone cold in the fridge. At room temperature, the phone quickly heats up, throttles, and you only get about 5% benefit. The Huawei Mate 20 has a large 4000 mAh battery. In our proprietary tests, battery life is quite good. It scored an endurance rating of 92 hours. The phone supports Huawei's proprietary 22.5 watt supercharge. It's not as fast as the 40 watt one on the Pro model, but we were still able to get from 0 to 55% charge in 30 minutes. You don't get wireless charging on this one though. The Mate 20 runs Android 9 Pie out of the box. It's pretty far from stock Android though, with Huawei's proprietary EMUI 9 on top. From the first time I picked up the phone, I was impressed by how fast and fluid everything felt. Swiping down on the home screen opens an app search panel. You can click an icon from here to open High Vision, which uses the camera to identify objects. If you really love getting your swipe on, you can opt to use the new iPhone-style gestures. They're all basically the same swipe commands for going to the home screen, opening the task switcher, and going back, here from either the right or the left side. And swiping from the bottom corner will bring up Google Assistant. Also, like on the iPhone, there's a screen time management report, which keeps track of how much time you spend on your phone. There's a password vault which is able to store passwords for all of your accounts, so you can log into anything with your face, a PIN code, or your fingerprint. And since the Mate 20 has an IR blaster, you can use it to control appliances around the house. The Huawei Mate 20's triple camera is a bit different from the Mate 20 Pro's, though the logic behind the setup is the same. There's a 12-megapixel f1.8 main shooter, and a secondary 8-megapixel f2.4 telephoto cam for zoom. The third is a 16-megapixel ultra-wide-angle cam at f2.2. All of these lack optical stabilization. In good light, photos from the 12-megapixel main cam are as flagship level as they come. There is plenty of detail, impressive dynamic range, lively and accurate colors, and superb contrast. The 54mm telephoto camera offers only 2x optical zoom. There's no hybrid zoom like there is on the Pro. There's nice detail though, and the color, contrast, and dynamic range are just as good as the regular shots, even if the noise levels are a bit higher. Next, the ultra-wide-angle cam. There's plenty of resolved detail, true-to-life colors, low noise levels, and superb dynamic range, probably due to multi-stacking. There is some corner softness, but it is much less than what we observed on the Mate 20 Pro. The ultra-wide-angle cam can also do macro shots, since the phone can focus from as close as 2.5 centimeters. These are quite good in quality. There are sometimes some chromatic aberrations, but it comes with the territory. Remember the overly aggressive Master AI mode on the Huawei P20? The good news is that version 2.0 has been reworked, and we no longer get over-the-top greenery or blue skies. Now the algorithm applies only a minor contrast boost and very slight extra saturation. With its bright f1.8 aperture, the main camera takes very good photos in low light. Even though it lacks OIS, the shutter speed won't go lower than 1/25 of a second, so blurred images due to camera shake are highly unlikely. There's plenty of detail, nice exposure, excellent contrast, and some very nice looking colors. The noise is handled very well too, but it's not quite as clean as on the Mate 20 Pro. And unlike the Pro, the Mate 20 won't use its telephoto camera at night. Instead, it will crop and digitally zoom from the regular 12-megapixel shots, and the quality is disappointing. With the ultra-wide camera, the image quality turned out abysmal. The resolve detail is very low, and the noise levels are extremely high. Unlike the Mate 20 Pro, the Mate 20's ultra-wide-angle camera isn't fitted for low-light shots. Luckily, this is where the night mode comes in. It takes pseudo-long exposures by stacking multiple frames, producing quite usable wide-angle pictures. Overall, its images look brighter, with good color retention and decent detail in both shadows and highlights. Moving subjects will get blurred, so it won't do a great job on a night out with friends, but it can take some impressive photos of nighttime scenes. Portrait mode has changed a bit since the P20 series. You can't change the blur strength as you could before. Instead, you can choose a bokeh highlights shape: circle, heart, swirl, or disc. In scenes with a bright, busy background, you still sometimes get artifacts around the subject. But in general, it still has some of the best separation we've seen in a while. For selfies, there's a 24-megapixel f2.0 front-facing camera with fixed focus, the same as on the P20 series. We wish the focus sweet spot was farther from the phone. Here, you have to shoot your face from pretty close to be in sharp focus. But if you are, the level of detail is quite amazing. Colors are faithfully represented, and dynamic range is good for a selfie cam, especially if you leave on the default AI HDR. The front camera also has a portrait mode, which is okay. The Mate 20 can shoot video in 4K at 30 FPS. Huawei still hasn't implemented a 60 FPS option. Video can be captured with any of the three cameras, and electronic stabilization is always on. Quality is just average. It lacks sharpness, and we've seen mid-rangers with better resolve detail. The colors themselves are washed out too, but at least the contrast and the dynamic range are pretty decent. The 1080p footage at 30 FPS looks sharp, and is actually among the best 1080p video we've seen. The resolve detail is great, as are the colors, contrast, and the dynamic range. 1080p videos at 60fps are less detailed than the 30fps ones, and the image is much softer. And you can't use the telephoto camera in this mode. Zoom is done digitally. There's 960fps super slow-mo recording as well, in 720p only. So that's the Huawei Mate 20. Compared to last year's Mate 10, it has a lot to offer. There's the bigger display, a faster 7nm chipset, and the awesome new triple camera setup that's almost as good as the Mate 20 Pro's. It is missing some of the Pro's higher end features, so it's not quite as cutting edge of a device. But the Mate 20 does have a larger screen and a 3.5mm jack, on top of being quite a lot cheaper. There is the question of market availability. Although the Mate 20 will be available alongside the Mate 20 Pro in many markets, neither is coming to the US. But if you can get your hands on it, the Mate 20 is a nice flagship phone. It's a solid alternative to the more expensive Pro version, and it deserves our recommendation. Thanks for watching. Hit like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And don't forget you can always stop by our website, gsmarena.com, for the latest news, reviews, and test findings. See ya!